From giving birth to your child's own father, to hooking up with your friend's girl, while thugs are burning alive behind you, and basically all of Spider-Man's life, there have been many messed up moments in comics that made us go,
"Hey yo, what the fuck?"
And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the first 50 parts in my series, Messed Up Moments in Comics. So hit like on the video, subscribe for more, and let's watch the first 50 parts of Messed Up Moments in Comics. Part 1. This man right here is Marcus Immortus, and you can see he's carrying Carol Danvers, back when she was Miss Marvel. Marcus Immortus is the future son of a version of Kang the Conqueror, and in the Avengers, he hooks up with Captain Marvel. But it gets a lot worse, because you see he was trapped in limbo, and when he hooked up with her, she got pregnant. With him. Yeah, that's right. This man forcibly impregnated Miss Marvel with a version of himself so he can be born outside of limbo and carry on as normal. What the heck, Marvel? Let me know if you want to see more messed up comic book moments. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Part 2. This is Old Man Logan, which many of us are familiar with the 2017 film. However, that film left out a very key character, that being Bruce Banner, the Hulk. In this comic, he's really not like he is in the MCU. In fact, this version of the Hulk did one of the most despicable things in comics. That being, having all of these evil children, known as the Hulk Gang. But who did he have them with? The only person that would be able to withstand his gamma radiation. That, unfortunately, being She-Hulk, his own cousin. Ugh. Like and subscribe for more messed up comic book moments. Part 3. This is Kyle Rayner. He is one of the most popular Green Lanterns in modern history. And this is Kyle's girlfriend, Alexandra DeWitt. She was introduced in the comics back in 1994, but unfortunately, she was only in 6 issues. Before, she was basically used as a plot device. This is where the messed up part comes in. Because Kyle Rayner comes home one day and finds her dismembered and stuffed in a fridge. Good lord. The worst part is, none of this even happened on the page. This all happened off screen. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
"Hey yo, what the fuck?"
Part 4. At this point, most of us are familiar with the Scarlet Witch. However, how many of us are actually familiar with the Ultimate Universe version of the character? The Ultimate Universe was created to give new readers a better entry point into comics without having to read decades of backlog. However, they used this to make things a little more edgy, and not in a good way. We all knew that there was a good family relationship between Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. However, in the Ultimate Universe, it's a little more intense than that. In a discussion between Captain America and Wasp, they basically confirm they're hooking up. What in the Alabama is this? Wolverine here even catches them in the act. This is gross. Like and subscribe for more messed up stories and comics. Part 5. Back in the early 2000s, Marvel introduced the Ultimate Universe, where they would give new backstories and origins to different characters in their universe. That way, they made it a little easier for new readers. One of the revamped characters they brought back was Wasp. We all know Wasp from the MCU. However, the Ultimate Universe has one of the most disturbing moments in this character's history. Now, I want you to remember, this is one of the founding members of the Avengers, and they end up killing her off in the Ultimate Universe. But how they do it is the messed up part. She gets eaten alive by the Blob. You know, from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Ugh. And as you can see here, it was pretty brutal. And don't worry, because he got the absolute crap stomped out of him. Like and subscribe for more messed up comic book moments. Part 6. We are all familiar with the Joker, considering he's been around for 80 years at this point. But he's done some really messed up stuff. And today we're going to be talking about that time he cut off his own face. In the New 52 Batman run, Joker was fighting Batman and he cut his own freaking face off and nailed it to a wall. What makes it even worse is he goes back, gets the cut up face, and staples it back to his own body. Oh my god. And you might think, oh, that's messed up. He's wearing his own face reattached to his body. But he wasn't the only one. They also introduced a character called the Joker's daughter, not really related, who also wears his face. Moments in comics that made us go,
"Hey yo, what the fuck?"
Part 7. Us are familiar with Batgirl, Batman's trusty sidekick, besides Robin, who's been around since 1967. However, even though this femme fatale has been one of the biggest crime fighters on Batman's side, she's no stranger to controversy. This all ties back to one of the most successful and popular one-shots in Batman history. That being The Killing Joke. And as you can see here, this is where one of the darkest moments in Barbara Gordon's history comes into play. Joker shows up at her door as she's celebrating with her father, Commissioner Gordon, and you can see here, he, without warning, shoots her in the stomach, paralyzing her from now on. But it doesn't stop there, because after this, Joker takes a ton of inappropriate photos and makes Commissioner Gordon have to witness this. On the bright side, after all of this, Barbara Gordon became Oracle and is now Batman's guy in the chair. Like and subscribe for more messed up comic book moments. Part 8. This is Spider-Man's first girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, and she caused more damage to Spider-Man than any villain ever could. After the death of her father, George Stacy, pictured here, she ended up skipping town. In fact, she skipped the country and went to Paris. While she was there, she ran into somebody who we all recognize. That'd be Norman Osborn, otherwise known as the Green Goblin. They end up hooking up. It is much, much worse than that, because not only did they kiss, they, went all the way, if you catch my drift. And how did Spider-Man find out? Oh, of course, easy. You see these two people here who just beat the crap out of Spider-Man? That's Gwen and Norman's kids. Due to the Goblin's altered genetics, they grew incredibly quickly, and Norman brainwashed them into thinking that Spider-Man was their dad, and he killed their mom. Well, that last part's technically true. And the worst part is, MJ knew all along. Didn't say anything before. Like and subscribe for more. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 9. I'm sure all of us out here are very familiar with Spider-Man. His most recent solo film made almost $2 billion. But did you know in 1984, Marvel, along with the National Committee for the Prevention of Child Abuse, got together and made a one-shot where we meet this smug piece of crap. His name is Skip. You will hate him. In this one-shot, Skip gives a child Peter Parker some adult material. He then goes on to physically abuse Peter, if you know what I mean. And unfortunately, the child Peter Parker was too afraid to leave. This is insanely dark, considering Spider-Man is one of the most popular characters for children. But unfortunately, it goes to show that not even superheroes are safe from abuse. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 10. Now I know we're all familiar with Batman, and his one rule right here that you can see from Dark Knight Returns. That being not using firearms, and to a lesser extent, not taking people out, if you catch my drift. However, that wasn't always the case, because as you can see here, in the early days, Batman encountered a vampire and shot him in his sleep. Don't worry, it gets much worse, because in another instance, Batman encounters a mental patient right here, who he loops around the neck with a metal wire and hangs from the bat plane. By the way, this was issue number 1, and the coldest part about all of this, he says it's probably better off this way. Dang, Batman. Batman's literally been breaking that rule since day 1. Part 11. This is Lois Lane, Superman's girlfriend. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with her. She's been a staple of DC Comics for decades at this point. Now, what people may think is controversial is that one issue in 1970, she turned herself black. Really? Although people may think this is controversial nowadays, Lois actually had an alright reason to do it. Lois was trying to write a story about the black experience in Metropolis, but one problem with that, no one would talk to her. So of course she went to Superman for help, and apparently he had a machine that would turn her African American for a day. Because why wouldn't he? But as you can see here, although it was only for a short time, she was able to actually get a better look into what it would be like living in someone else's shoes. Although this might be considered to be poor taste nowadays, we could all learn a lesson or two from this. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 12. This is Jubilee from the X-Men. You might recognize her from the iconic intro to the 90s X-Men cartoon. However, in 2003, one of the most messed up things in comics happened to her. During an arc in the comics called Holy War, a group of humans create the Church of Humanity, and they straight up crucify her. Good lord. But don't worry, friends. It gets even crazier. They go ahead and crucify multiple other young mutants all on the front lawn of the Xavier Institute. You know, the X-Men's headquarters. I'd be asking, what was the Church of Humanity's end game here? Simple, actually. They had the only obvious end goal. Make Nightcrawler the Pope. What? Don't see how these things are correlated, but alright. Part 13. Well familiar with Wolverine from the X-Men comics, cartoons, and movies. We also know that his entire skeleton is coated in adamantium, which is why he has the metal claws. But that's actually led to some horrific imagery, such as when he fought the Punisher, giving us this. Ugh. But one of the most truly terrifying moments actually came from an encounter he had with Magneto, otherwise known as the Master of Magnetism. You might be thinking to yourself, Magneto, that's kind of a silly name, until you realize he literally has control of all things metal. What else is made out of metal? Oh yeah, that's right! Wolverine's entire skeleton. Honestly, I don't know why they ever send Wolverine out against Magneto, considering this is probably going to happen like 90% of the time, if he ever remembers it. And it's truly a really messed up moment in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 14. Canary. She's been in DC Comics since 1947. Traditionally, she's been with Green Arrow, Oliver Queen. However, in this issue of All-Star Batman, written by Frank Miller and drawn by Jim Lee, things take a turn. Because you see, there were a group of thugs trying to steal some bleach from a Gotham City dock. So Batman lights them on fire. Then as they're literally burning alive behind him, she makes her move. Batman and Black Canary end up hooking up on the dock while these people are still burning alive. And they want their masks on. You know, something tells me that Frank Miller really has it out for Oliver Queen. I mean, considering this and in Dark Knight Returns where he loses an arm, my man just can't catch a break. Our hearts go out to you, Ollie. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us say,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 15. This is Kraven the Hunter, and you might recognize him from the upcoming movie Kraven the Hunter, or Kraven the Animal Rights Activist, but that's a story for another time. Kraven is one of the biggest hunters in the Marvel Universe, and he's basically hunted every large sport there is. Except for now he's after Spider-Man. And in this arc titled Kraven's Last Hunt, he gets the ultimate victory. Kraven beats the crap out of Spider-Man, buries him alive, he ends up taking Spider-Man's black suit, becoming Spider-Man temporarily, tracks down a cannibal that Spider-Man needed Captain America's help to fight, and solos him. Then once Peter's finally free from being buried alive, he tracks Kraven down, and Kraven doesn't put up a fight, because he knows he already won. With nothing else to prove and nothing else to live for, he takes himself out. Yeah, I don't think that the Kraven movie's gonna end this way. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 16. In X-Men Comics, we have the Phoenix Force, which is a cosmic power source that can corrupt the spirit and mind of different characters, as seen in here with Jean Grey turning into Dark Phoenix. And in the comics, the Phoenix Force ends up binding itself to Cyclops, Scott Summers. It gives him incredible power, but also slowly starts corrupting his mind. You can even see Cyclops with the power of the Phoenix here on the cover of Avengers vs. X-Men. But everything started coming to a head when Charles Xavier, Professor X himself, tried to stop Scott. Corrupted by the Phoenix Force, he ends up going against his own friend and takes out Professor X, fully becoming Dark Phoenix, which honestly is just messed up, considering Professor X is basically a father figure to him. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 17. After the comic book event Civil War, one of the most shocking and tragic deaths happened in comics. That being the death of Captain America. After everything that went on in Civil War, he was taken out by a sniper. Or that's what they wanted you to think. Because you see, it turns out that Marvel's version of truth, justice, and the American way was taken out by a friend. Even though Steve was actually hit by a sniper, and that sniper was actually the villain Crossbones, pictured here, or you might actually recognize him from his MCU appearance here. The person who actually dealt the final blow was Sharon Carter, or the Power Broker from the MCU. Weird title, but alright. As you can see right here, she reaches down and shoots Steve in the stomach, killing him. Which is just awful. I mean, she was technically brainwashed, so it's not really her fault, but still, she killed America. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 18. We're all familiar with the Joker and some of the most twisted things he's done, like cutting off his own face and beating a teenager like he owed him 3 months' rent. But one of the most messed up things the Joker has done was skinning a man alive and making him do a sexy dance. What the heck is wrong with comics sometimes? Don't get me wrong, the Joker's done some crazy stuff, and I don't want to know what the heck is wrong with the people who come up with this. Like, honestly, seriously, whoever came up with this idea, seek help. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments in comics. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 19. This is Talia al Ghul. In the comics, she ends up having a son with Batman. You may be familiar with him. His name is Damian Wayne. But did you know, just like Jason Todd before him, he was taken out. Yeah, Damien was actually killed by this person right here, known as the Heretic. It's actually pretty messed up when you think about it, considering Damien was the only child of Bruce. I mean, I guess you can count all of the other Robins, so I guess I should say biological child? And as you can see here, Batman is visibly distraught at the thought of losing another Robin, and this one being his only son. But what makes this even more messed up is the fact that the person who killed him was actually a clone of himself. Slightly aged up, of course, but still. This whole thing is crazy. It's even crazier the fact that he comes back with superpowers. That's a story for another time. Like and subscribe for more. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 20. If I said Captain Marvel, you'd probably think of somebody like this, or maybe even the live-action version. However, I'm actually talking about the original Captain Marvel from Marvel, not DC. That's right, before Carol Danvers, we had Marvel. This messed up moment is actually how he died. Okay, so, you know, a superhero cosmic being, you think that he'd probably perished fighting a supervillain. No, not at all. In fact, this superpowered being passed away from cancer. Good lord. As it turns out, the original Captain Marvel, contracted cancer from a deadly nerve gas. This is one of the most messed up moments in comics, considering it's one of the most realistic deaths that the comic book characters ever had. At least he was with all of his friends and family. Like and subscribe for more. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 21. In 2003, Mark Millar wrote a comic series for Marvel called Trouble, in which we get a good look at the young life of Aunt May, otherwise known as May Riley. We also meet May's friend, Mary, pictured here. And the comic shows the budding relationship between these two and the Parker brothers, Ben and Richard. However, this is where things start to take a turn. Because you see, May had no problem going all the way, if you know what I mean. However, Mary did. So, what could be done about this? You know, since they're seeing brothers. Well, there's only one option, of course. Aunt May hooks up with both of them! Yeah, that right there is the old sweet lady we know as Aunt May. But it gets better. Aunt May gets pregnant, but Uncle Ben is sterile. Which means the baby she was pregnant with that she ended up having with Richard was Peter Parker. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 22. We are all familiar with Thanos, the Mad Titan, from the Infinity Saga in the MCU. But we did learn a little bit more of his origins in Thanos Rising. In that arc, we meet Sui Sin, who is Thanos' mom. We also get to see Thanos as a baby and him getting born. And look at him, I mean, he's disgusting, but in a cute way. The only problem is he had the deviant gene, which means his mom wanted to kill him as soon as he was born. Dang, man. No wonder he wanted to take out half the universe. However, this is where things start to get really messed up. Because now Thanos starts to go a little nuts, as you can see here. He takes his mom, kidnaps her, ties her up, and thinks whatever made him a monster came from inside his mom. So he's gonna cut her open and find out exactly what it was. Ugh. Like and subscribe for more messed up moments. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 23. Fans of Spider-Man may picture this when you think about Gwen Stacy, or possibly the more modern version of the character known as Spider-Gwen. But the real legends remember that time the Green Goblin threw her off a bridge, and Spider-Man caught her with his webbing at the last second. Thank goodness for spider powers, right? Well, as you can see here, he stopped her dead in her tracks, which meant all of the force went straight to her neck, killing her instantly. And just like that, Peter lost the first love of his life. But his life gets much worse, as I've covered on this channel. Let's review. The person he thought was his mom all along actually wasn't, because it was Aunt May all along, because she's a hoe. Before Gwen died by Norman throwing her off the bridge, the two of them actually met up in Paris, and they did the deed. Then they had kids. Norman said that Spider-Man killed their mom. And we can't forget when Peter got touched by a grown man. Poor kid. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 24. This is Mary Jane Watson, longtime girlfriend of Spider-Man. And eventually, they even ended up getting married, which is amazing because finally Spider-Man can get something positive in his life. Or can he? Because you see, now we get the storyline one more day. And I'm sure anybody who's familiar with the comic knows exactly why this is awful. But let me explain. Aunt May is on the brink of death, and Spider-Man makes a deal with the literal devil to bring her back. However, what does he want in return? Nothing too important. Just the marriage he has to Mary Jane. When they discuss this, he ends up showing their potential child that they could have had in the future if they did stay together, which is just disturbing. At the end of the day, Peter doesn't think he can go through with it. That's when MJ steps in. Mary Jane wants to make a deal with the devil to get rid of her marriage to Peter and the potential of them having children for an 89-year-old woman's life. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 25. This is Dick Grayson, otherwise known as Nightwing, or Batman's first Robin, and this is the story of the most messed up thing he's ever done. In the comics, Nightwing and Batgirl have always been a little close, but this takes it to a whole new level. Because you see, they end up hooking up. There's a problem, though. The morning after Dick and Barbara Gordon hook up, he ends up giving her a letter, which is an invitation to his wedding the next day to Starfire. What is wrong with him? Yeah, the day before his wedding to an intergalactic space princess, he hooks up with a girl who he basically grew up with, who was handicapped by his worst nemesis. Good show, Dick. Living up to that name. Thanks to this user on my TikTok for giving me the idea for this short. Have a great day. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 26. Batman is by far one of the most popular superheroes of all time, but he absolutely has a checkered past. We already covered the time he hung a mentally handicapped man from a plane, and even the time he hooked up with Black Canary, Green Arrow's girlfriend, while people were burning alive behind him. But honestly, this one might be the most disturbing. In this issue, he was fighting KG Beast, who you may recognize from DC's Harley Quinn cartoon, or even this very small scene from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. In typical Batman fashion, the two fight for a while before making their way into a sewer, at which point they go into a supply closet where Batman makes his move. Batman traps him in the room and basically boards up the door, leaving him no way to escape, so he basically starves to death. Dang, Batman, why you gotta do him so dirty? Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 27. We are all familiar with Captain America from his many appearances in the MCU, but today we're going to be talking about the time that he broke bad. This is one of the most messed up moments in Captain America's history because he's basically joining the bad guys from WW2, if you know what I mean. And unfortunately, it's a massive betrayal of the character, and it made comic book fans justifiably angry. Captain America has always been a symbol basically of eternal optimism and the American dream. Think of it as Marvel's version of Superman, meaning Marvel's embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. But the reason that it was so messed up that Cap switched sides and joined Hydra was the origin of the character, and who created him in the first place. He was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby doing the artwork. And Captain America has always fought the forces of Hydra, like in issue number 1, where you see Captain America punching a certain mustachioed German in the face. And this heel turn's really messed up because the creators of Cap were both Jewish. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 28. We're all familiar with Selina Kyle as Catwoman. However, she has a sister named Maggie Kyle. And unfortunately in this story, she has a fateful run-in with Black Mask. For those of you who don't know, Black Mask is a supervillain who doesn't really have any powers, besides the one that Batman has, which is money, but he does like to torture people. And unfortunately for Maggie Kyle and her husband, Black Mask puts his sights on them. Black Mask not only beats and tortures them both, but he decides to cut pieces of her husband off and force her to eat them, including his eyes. Although this is very messed up and completely disturbing, Selina does indeed get her revenge at the end of the story. So I guess, silver lining? Don't know how much of a silver lining it is, considering this is still an insanely dark and disturbing comic. Shout out to this user on my TikTok for giving me the idea. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 29. Recently in the series, I covered the moment that Dick Grayson broke Barbara Gordon's heart. However, she did it first. Because you see, while Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon were dating in Batman Beyond 2.0, she hooked up with Bruce, and she got pregnant. And as you can see in this panel right here, it's not Dick's, because he was only back for 3 weeks. And she was 7 weeks pregnant. Therefore, it's Batman's. Surprise. Dick Grayson is justifiably angry about this, so he beats the crap out of Batman. However, while that's going on, Barbara takes down a thug in the streets and has a miscarriage. That is seriously a messed up moment in comics. Shout out to Justin for bringing this to my attention. Like and subscribe for more. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 30. I'm sure we're all familiar with Green Lantern of Sector 2814, otherwise known as Hal Jordan. But were you familiar with his half-elf girlfriend, Aricia? The two had a pretty intense relationship, to say the least. But why? Well, first off, she was another Green Lantern, just like he was, and at one point, she was even his protege. You can even see here where he welcomes her into the Green Lantern Corps and refers to her as Little Sister. Alright. But that line, Little Sister, actually has a lot more meaning than you'd think. Because you see, at first, she liked Hal, but he couldn't get with her, because she was a bit too young. In fact, she was 13 years old. They get around this by making the ring turn her into a more appropriate age, physically, but not necessarily mentally. Mr. Jordan, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 31. This is Sue Dibney, wife of the Elongated Man, and this is by far one of the most messed up comics in DC history, because today we're covering how she died in Identity Crisis. Every year for his birthday, Sue would make the Elongated Man a little surprise, and this year, it was that she was pregnant. But he only finds this out after he finds her charred body. But hold on a minute, friends, because it gets much worse from here. Because at her funeral, we learn that Dr. Light, famed villain of the Justice League and Teen Titans, broke into the JLA headquarters while she was alone and assaulted her brutally. Then it took most of the JLA to hold him back afterwards, so Zatanna could go ahead and wipe his mind, making it so he never remembers that this ever happened. Except, Batman had some reservations about this, so she wiped his mind also. Good lord. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 32. I recently made a YouTube short going over a brief description of Mark Millar's Trouble from 2003. Little did I know how truly messed up this story would get. So let's just have a quick recap. This is Aunt May. Yes, this same Aunt May. And for some reason she looks exactly like MJ, which makes it even worse that she uses the same face at Tiger. You hit the jackpot line. Moving on. She's a huge hoe, hooking up with both Uncle Ben and Peter Parker's dad, Richard Parker. Because her friend Mary, pictured here, wouldn't do it with Richard Parker because she was afraid she would become a mom because of what a fortune teller told her. Okay? Aunt May gets pregnant with Richard Parker's baby, meaning that that baby is in fact Peter Parker, and they did it 47 times. Jesus Christ. Oh, and don't worry, there's a scene where she's debating aborting the baby. So that's fun. She ends up giving Peter to Mary, and Mary raises her with Richard. So happy ending, I guess? Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 33. This is a character in DC Comics known as Tarantula. She was created in 2002 and is morally ambiguous, to say the least. And you'll see why. One fateful night, she was working with Dick Grayson, otherwise known as Nightwing. They end up getting ambushed by a character named Blockbuster, and that's where the messed up part starts. Because while they were all fighting, Tarantula shoots Blockbuster, killing him, which makes Dick Grayson have a panic attack. He ends up going to the roof, claiming he can't breathe from his anxiety. And that's when she makes her move. Nightwing is literally saying, "Don't touch me." And she decides to take control, if you know what I mean. Good lord. So many things wrong with this. One, if the roles were reversed, there would be riots. Two, she just killed a guy. And three, what is up with guys in the Bat family getting attacked without their consent, if you know what I mean? That's how Damian was made too. Shout out for the suggestion. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 34. We are all familiar with Mary Jane Watson, and this is the story of how she died. Now, she didn't have a traditional death like some Spider-Man characters. She wasn't thrown off a bridge and killed by the sudden stop like Gwen. She wasn't shot like Aunt May or Uncle Ben. But as we learned in Spider-Man Reign, her fate was much worse. In that comic, we learned that MJ died of cancer. But exactly how did she get it? Actually, it's quite simple. Spider-Man's radioactive spider goo, if you know what I mean. No joke, as you see right here, he said that he was poisoning her with his radioactive bits. Obviously, this isn't canon, but seriously, chalk up another point on the Peter Parker gets screwed over by writer's board. I mean, between this, Aunt May secretly being his mom, and a huge hoe, him accidentally killing his girlfriend, and being assaulted as a child, he really cannot catch a break. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 35. In the Ultimates issue number 5, Bruce Banner injects himself with the Super Soldier Serum, which, unfortunately, has some side effects. It still turns him into the Hulk, but it makes him stronger, angrier, and more randy, if you catch my drift. This is not going to be good. The plot of this comic is Hulk is on his way tracking down Betty, his ex-girlfriend, who is actually on a date with Fred Jones himself, Freddie Prinze Jr., of all people. Anyway, Nick Fury sends a team of elite superheroes to take out the Hulk, and this is where the messed up parts start. He takes out Giant Man and threatens to decapitate him and use his head as a toilet bowl. Tony Stark tries to take him out, but that does absolutely nothing, and that's where the Wasp comes in. In a genius move, she flashes the Hulk to try to distract him. That doesn't work either. Somehow Thor's hammer only makes him more in the mood, until finally the fight's over and Cap kicks him in the face. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 36. In 2019, we get the Batman arc known as City of Bane, in which we get one of the most messed up stories that ever happened to the Bat family. Because in this comic, we see Thomas Wayne Batman from Flashpoint team up with Bane. He does this in order to psychologically break Bruce Wayne and give up on the role of Batman, so he could just retire and be with Catwoman. And how does he go about doing this? Quite simple, actually. Obvious first step, capture your grandson. Step 2, have the hired muscle break his surrogate grandfather's neck. Step 3, shoot your son in the gut while he's wrestling Bane. Of course, step 4 being shoot Bane in the face. And the most important step of all, I cannot stress this enough. Have Bane survive getting shot in the face and have him snap your back in prison. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 37. This is Detective Comics number 613 from 1990. In this comic, we meet a child named Mike Dell and his father, who's a humble trash collector. Mike is working on a project for school about saving the environment, and his father, being a trash collector, decides to take him to the local landfill. But before they get there, they have a run-in with some unsavory characters. And by the time they do end up at the landfill, the villains are already there, and they decide to attack. And unfortunately, this is where the first twist of the story comes in. You see, Mike was hiding out in the garbage truck, and he was shot and killed by one of the villains. And as you can see, Batman was just a little late getting there. But you see, this is where the story gets absolutely nuts. As Batman starts beating the crap out of all of the thugs there, he quickly dodges the bullets of one of the thugs. But as that's happening, he trips. And 2 evildoers fell into a trash compactor and got crushed to death. All of this while Mike's father holds his lifeless body. Good lord. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 38. This is Jewel from Marvel Comics, otherwise known as Jessica Jones. And if you know anything about the character, you know what's in store. One day she was flying through the streets of New York and heard some commotion, so she went to investigate. That was a big mistake, because that was her first encounter with the Purple Man, otherwise known as Killgrave from Marvel Comics. Now this character has an interesting power set. That being, he emits pheromones, which basically compels you to do whatever he says, no matter how depraved. And when she begins to confront him about this situation, he compels her to begin undressing in public. This is just the beginning, because you see, after this, he compels her to stay with him and basically traffics her. But after enough time, she's able to finally break free from his curse and start her own detective agency, becoming the Jessica Jones we know now. All before she meets up with Luke Cage and does something in a very uncomfortable place.
I like the back of a Volkswagen.
Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Part 39. Recently in this series, we've covered how Marvel really hates Spider-Man. And today is no exception. In fact, it's probably one of the worst things that's happened. At least, according to fans. In a recent run of Spider-Man, Peter and MJ get stuck in an alternate reality. They're saved at the nick of time by this guy named Paul. You'll see why fans hate him. Because through the power of comics, Peter makes a device that sends him back to his normal dimension, and unfortunately, he's the only one to go. But then we find out, time flows at a different rate from their home dimension, and while Peter's gone, MJ ends up forming an entire relationship with Paul, completely abandoning any hope that Peter would come back. Seriously, they even have adopted kids together. Oh, and they both get absolutely shredded. Oh yeah, and apparently Paul straight up punches Peter in the face at one point, but don't worry, it's completely justified apparently. But don't worry, friends, the kids get erased from existence, and it looks like Peter snapped and is doing a reverse Gwen Stacy. Good for him. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 40. In 2009, we got the return of Marvel Zombies. And in this issue, Galactus was turned and the people who ate his flesh gained his powers. One of the zombies, Spider-Man, ends up going to a non-zombified universe. And terrible things happen. The Sinister Six attack, and before the normal non-zombified Spider-Man can intervene, Zombie Spider-Man makes his move. To the horror of the other members, he takes out Kraven, rips out Mysterio's brain, and eventually takes out the rest of the Sinister Six. Except for Sandman. He runs away. Absolutely terrified as to what he just saw, Sandman tries to make a break for it. And that's when he runs into the normal Spider-Man. Spider-Man tries to plead his case, but Sandman's not having it, and starts beating the crap out of him, before forcibly going down Spider-Man's throat, filling him up like a balloon, and popping him. Good lord, why do the writers hate Spider-Man so much? Recently, I made a YouTube short talking all about Paul and MJ's relationship. However, there was something I left out, and it involves Peter. At one point, Peter's talking with Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, and that's when he drops the line. Peter straight up says that he thinks of MJ more like a sister. Excuse me? Hold on there, friends. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same Peter and MJ. So Peter thinks of this as sisterly behavior. And he obviously thinks this is okay for siblings to do as well. Are you completely sure about that? Just to really hammer this home, he married somebody who he thinks of as a sister? This is Talia al Ghul, otherwise known as the Daughter of the Demon. She and Batman have a complicated relationship, to say the least. But why? You may think it's because her dad is Ra's al Ghul, leader of the League of Assassins, and basically the person who trained Batman in some iteration. Or maybe it's because they had a physical relationship, and now he's with Catwoman. Well, it's a little bit closer to the truth. In reality, the real problem comes from the fact that she drugged Batman and had her way with him, resulting in the birth of their son, who Batman honestly didn't know about, but you may recognize him as the DCU's newest Robin, Damian Wayne. Yeah, that's right. It was non-consensual on Batman's part. And just like I said with the assault of Nightwing before him, if the roles were reversed, there would be riots. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 43. This is Batman issue number 686, and in this issue, we discover how Bruce Wayne died. While having a near-death experience, Batman gets to witness his own funeral, where he sees friends and foes. And that's where we learn the shocking truth. After the death of his parents, Bruce became Batman. Unfortunately, though, he wasn't really a good crime fighter. So, Alfred, being the father figure to Bruce that he was, decided to take measures into his own hands. And how would he do this? He fabricated supervillain stories and had actors play the most famous Batman villains we know today. But Batman needed a true nemesis, and who better to play him than Alfred himself? In this comic, Alfred was the Joker. Bruce eventually finds out about this, and Alfred tries to stop him from fighting the Riddler. Unfortunately, Bruce doesn't listen to Alfred and goes to confront him, where he gets shot point blank, leading to the funeral at the beginning of the issue. In 1984, we got the mini arc known as the Judas Contract, and anyone familiar with Teen Titans knows that this is going to be a doozy. The Teen Titans member Tara is one of the key members of this story, along with Slade Wilson himself, Deathstroke. And this is where the messed up part starts. Because you see, it was revealed that Tara was a double agent working with Slade the entire time. And you might be thinking to yourself, that's not that bad. But it gets worse, because you see, they weren't just partners in crime. They were partners in life. Yeah, that's right. He's a supervillain in every sense of the word. Don't worry, friends, it gets much better, because he ends up killing his superhero son, and Tara dies in the process as well. Has this all been retconned at some point? Probably. But it still doesn't change the fact that Deathstroke was with an underage girl. Chris Hansen's been notified. But hey, this arc gave us Nightwing, so that's fun. We are all familiar with Thanos, the Mad Titan, obsessed with death, wanting to wipe out half the universe. But what about the time he did something good? This is the time Thanos helped an old woman cross the street. You might be thinking to yourself, Alex, this isn't messed up. Let me explain. Thanos purposely halted traffic to help this woman cross the street, because there was a passenger on board, this young girl. And at first this doesn't seem significant, until a little later on in her life. Because Thanos goes to visit her on her deathbed, and that's when he drops the bomb. By helping the old woman across the road that day, he stopped the flow of traffic. The young girl, Stephanie Critcher, wouldn't meet somebody who was very impactful to her life, which would have set her down a path of curing all diseases, world hunger, and inequality. He tells her by doing this, he basically made her waste her life. Then she dies. Shout out for the suggestion. Messed up moments in comics that made us go.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Part 46. This is the Superior Spider-Man, and although he may look like Peter Parker, there is a deep dark secret there. In Spider-Man issue number 700, it was revealed that Peter Parker and Dr. Otto Octavius switched bodies. After Doc Ock gained control of Peter's body, he ended up encountering Scorpion. During the fight, Superior Spider-Man ended up knocking Scorpion's jaw clean off, making Doc Ock realize, oh my god, he's been holding back all along. But the really messed up part is the fact that Doc Ock's body that Peter's mind is now trapped in was dying. During Peter's final moments, their consciousness starts to meld, and Otto gets to live all of Peter's memories, but with Otto in there in his place. With all of this happening, Otto is able to tell Peter, Otto's old body, that he understands with great power comes great responsibility. And with that, the Peter that we knew was gone. This is All-Star Batman and Robin, and you may be asking yourself, why is Batman yellow? There's a simple answer, actually. Originally, one of Green Lantern's main weaknesses was the color yellow. So when Batman had to face off against Hal Jordan, he decided to take that to the extreme. Bruce skirted child labor laws and made Robin paint not only himself, Batman, but the entire set the color yellow. This would render Hal Jordan's ring completely useless. And that's when Robin decided to snap. Robin leapt into action, punching Hal Jordan in the throat, crushing his windpipe, making it so he couldn't breathe. Thankfully, Bruce was there, and he stepped into action by throwing Robin against a wall, beating the crap out of him for a second, and performed an emergency tracheotomy, that way saving Hal's life. After doing so, he even dropped this line: "Congratulations, kid. You're not a murderer." Good Lord. In Thanos Annual number 1, we track the Mad Titan in his quest to destroy someone's life. The story opens up with Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's telling us the story about how Thanos decides to torture a young baby named David. He decides to visit him once a year on his birthday, and things start off small. On his first birthday, you can see Thanos steals his blanket, causing the baby to cry through the night. However, things quickly escalate, as on his 5th birthday, he causes a car accident with his father still in the car. On David's 16th birthday, Thanos makes him break up with his girlfriend. On his 21st, he doesn't let David have a drink. On his 25th, he burns down his grad school. On his 27th, he makes him get fired from his job and kills his cat. This all changes on his 30th birthday, where he thinks he's finally free because the Avengers exiled him from the planet. However, Thanos returns the following year and sucks his entire neighborhood into a black hole. Finally, on his 45th birthday, he confronts Thanos, stating that all of this must be a test to see if David will take his own life. But really, Thanos doesn't even care. Messed Up Moments in Comics, Part 49. I'm sure we're all familiar with the Ultimate Spider-Man, but Peter wasn't always himself. In between issues 66 and 67 of Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter actually switches places with the man himself, Wolverine. And it's a lot creepier than you'd think. So Logan wouldn't stop hitting on Jean Grey, so she did the logical step, what anyone would do, and sent his brain to Spider-Man's body. She didn't intentionally send him to Spider-Man's body, it was just the place that he would least want to go. And Wolverine does what every 200-year-old man trapped in a 15-year-old's body would do, and tries to hook up with his girlfriend. I mean, for the love of God, just look at that face. That should tell you everything you need to know. Thankfully, Jean switches them back, and Spider-Man rightfully is pissed, as you can tell by his copious amounts of cursing. And he does meet back up with MJ and says that he's sorry that he wasn't himself, which, I mean, is accurate. She dropped the bomb that they did try to hook up. This whole story made us all go,
Hey, yo, what the f?
Messed Up Moments in Comics, Part 50. This is the DC Comics character, Big Barda, and this is her fateful encounter with Superman. In this issue of Action Comics, both Superman and Big Barda were under the control of a character named Sleaze. As you can see right there is Mr. Miracle, Big Barda's husband. While they're both being mind-controlled by Sleaze, let's just say that he makes them do an adult film. Yeah, seriously, he mind-controls both Superman and Big Barda, introduces them to a director of adult material, and proceeds to film the entire thing, while Mr. Miracle tries to track them down and free them from the control. Mr. Miracle is able to break in and stop it before it goes too far. But the problem is, we really don't know how far it went, and unfortunately, neither do they. But we do get this amazing shot of Mr. Miracle's face. I mean, look at the pure hatred he has for both of them in this moment. And eventually, they all go their separate ways and decide never to talk about this again. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and leave a like, as it really does help, and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. If you'd like another way to support the channel, consider becoming a member, as you'll get custom emotes, member-only polls, as well as a shout out at the end of each video. It is by no means necessary, but it does go a long way to help. Once again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's gone ahead and watched this video. Go ahead and comment down below your favorite messed up moment in comics, and if I haven't covered it, I'll do my best to try. Don't forget to tune in every morning for a new episode of Messed Up Moments in Comics. I hope you have a great day, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.